All right, we're doing something a little different tonight. We're opening up a cold case file. And this isn't just any old case. We're diving into a forensic investigation of a death that people have been debating for centuries. And I've got to warn you, some of the details, they're more shocking than you could possibly imagine. I mean, think about it. It's the most famous execution in all of history, right? It's been depicted in art, it's central to one of the world's biggest religions. It's a story pretty much everyone on the planet recognizes. But here's the thing. What if the story you think you know isn't the whole story? What if the biggest part of that story, the death itself, was actually a trick, a masterfully executed deception that fooled an entire empire and literally changed the course of history? Yeah, you heard me right. For centuries, there's been this conspiracy theory floating around that claims Jesus never actually died on that cross. And this isn't some newfangled internet theory either. People have been arguing about this, writing books on it for hundreds of years. Okay, so let's crack open this case file. The official name for this whole idea, this theory that the crucifixion was all just an elaborate performance, it's called the Swoon Theory. So what is the Swoon Theory, really? Well, at its core, it's pretty simple. It suggests that Jesus didn't actually die. He just fainted. He swooned from all of the pain and exhaustion. And then later on, in the quiet and cool of the tomb, he just woke up. And you know, this theory has had a surprisingly long life. It's not a fringe idea that just popped up. We're talking 18th century thinkers, best-selling books in the 60s and 80s. This thing just keeps coming back, each time with a slightly new angle or some supposed new evidence. So let's break down what the theory is actually claiming. Honestly, it sounds like something straight out of a movie script. The proponents say he just passed out, that the sponge he was given wasn't vinegar, but some kind of drug to make him look dead. Then, the cool, damp air of the tomb basically acted like smelling salts and revived him. And to top it all off, in an almost unbelievable stroke of luck, an earthquake just so happened to roll the stone away so he could walk out. It's a wild story, for sure, but is it even remotely plausible from a forensic standpoint? Okay, now it's time to bring in the expert witness. And I'm not talking about a person, I'm talking about forensic medicine. We are going to treat this exactly like a modern autopsy. We're going to look at the hard, cold, physical evidence and see if a human body could have possibly survived this. And our medical report actually starts the night before the crucifixion. The story goes that Jesus was in such agony while praying that he started to sweat blood. And you might hear that and think, okay, that's just a metaphor, some dramatic storytelling. But it's not. It is a real, documented, although incredibly rare, medical condition. It's called hematidrosis. So what happens is, under extreme stress, the tiny little capillaries around your sweat glands can actually burst, and they mix blood with your sweat. The effect of this is, well, it's catastrophic. It means that before a single whip even landed, the victim's skin was already unbelievably fragile, tender, and hypersensitive to pain. Now, let's talk about the nails, the tools used for this execution. Forensic archaeology has confirmed that the Roman spikes they used were massive. We're talking tapered iron spikes, anywhere from 5 to 7 inches long. And here's something that almost every painting, every movie gets totally wrong. The spikes were not driven through the palms of the hands. See, a nail in the palm just can't support the weight of a body. The flesh would rip right through. The Romans, they were experts at this. They knew better. They drove the spikes through the wrists. So why does this one little detail matter so much? Well, it's everything. Because that's the detail that explains the level of pain we're talking about. A 5 to 7 inch spike driven through your wrist would either sever or just crush the median nerve. To even try to understand that, Dr. Alexander Metherell gives this analogy. Imagine hitting your funny bone. Now, instead of just hitting it, imagine taking a pair of pliers and just crushing that nerve. That is the kind of searing, blinding, white-hot pain that would shoot up the arm with every single twitch.
And this brings us to the brutal, calculated science of crucifixion itself. See, it wasn't designed to be a quick death. It was a slow, agonizing, public spectacle of death by suffocation. With your arms stretched out like that, your chest muscles are basically paralyzed. The only way you can get a breath is to push your entire body weight up on that nail driven through your feet, scraping your shredded back against the rough wood of the cross. You'd push up, get one single, agonizing breath, and then slump back down. And you'd repeat that horrifying cycle over and over until you physically just didn't have the strength to push up anymore. And then you'd suffocate.
But even if, by some miracle, a person managed to hold on through all of that, the Romans had a final brutal failsafe. A soldier came and thrust a spear right into Jesus' side. Now, anatomically, that spear would have gone straight through his lung and into his heart. Medically speaking, this isn't just a serious injury. This is a massively traumatic, 100% non-survivable wound. End of story.
Okay, so with all that medical evidence on the table, it's time for closing arguments. Let's put the claims of this swoon theory head-to-head against the cold, hard forensic facts. So the theory claims, oh, the Roman guards could have just made a mistake. But come on, these weren't rookies. They were a professional execution squad. And more importantly, Roman military law was brutally simple. If your prisoner escapes, you face their punishment. These guys had a very real life or death reason to be absolutely certain the victim was dead. And look, this isn't just speculation. We have actual physical proof. Back in 1968, archaeologists found the first-century remains of a crucified man named Yohanan. And the discovery was just incredible. There was a 7-inch nail still hammered through his heel bone. Hard archaeological proof of exactly how this was done. But you know what? Let's just, for the sake of argument, let's just push past all of the evidence. Let's pretend the impossible happened. Jesus somehow survives the massive blood loss, the shock, the asphyxiation, and a spear through the heart. He wakes up in the tomb. Now what? This is a point that theologian David Strauss made way back in 1835, and it's a huge one. A man who had been brutally tortured, who was suffering from massive blood loss, shock, crushed nerves, and a giant gaping wound in his chest, he wouldn't emerge looking like a triumphant conqueror of death. He would have been a pathetic, broken man desperately needing a doctor. That image, that's not what would have inspired a worldwide movement claiming he was the resurrected Lord of Life who had triumphed over the grave. So, we've examined the case file. We've heard from the medical examiner. We've heard the closing arguments. Based on everything we've looked at, what can we possibly conclude?
The swoon theory, as intriguing as it is, just completely collapses under the sheer weight of medical and historical fact. When you look at everything, from the pre-weakened state caused by hemidrosis to the hypovolemic shock, from the brutal mechanics of asphyxiation, all the way to that final fatal spear wound, the conclusion of our forensic investigation is unavoidable. Survival was medically and physically impossible.
So the forensic evidence answers the how. It leaves absolutely no doubt about the physiological reality of what happened. But in doing so, it opens up a much deeper, much more haunting mystery. The real question isn't how he died, it's why. What could possibly motivate someone to willingly, knowingly walk into and endure that kind of unimaginable torture? That, well, that's a question science just can't answer.